His wife and him were carpooling, and you won't believe what happened next. Clickbait. Welcome, Midswatch. We're going to do one about exposing weaknesses. You guys have heard this before. I wish a man would expose his feelings more. I wish a guy would feel vulnerable around me. And then the guy does it, and the girl's like, maybe we should just be friends. So there's going to be kind of an example of this in a marriage, little ways how to deal with it, and we'll get to it. So the red pill disciple, back at 7 years ago. It's like my wife and I, we carpool. We had an incident this morning where she thought I was showing weakness. Admittedly, I kind of was. He's like, this tiny bit, barely a sentence was enough for her to pounce on. She went on and on about it and what I should do. He's like, my initial response was to hold frame, say okay, and leave it at that. And the entire trip, she just kept going on and on and on. And by then, I said something back that triggered an emotional response. Oh, am I not allowed to say anything? Why are you being so defensive? Clearly, shit tests. And he's like, I did okay. I could have been better for what it was. I redirected it and said she can say whatever she wants to, but I'm going to be allowed to say something back. So I flipped it and asked her why she's being defensive about it. And at that point, she hit her emotional limit and blew it. I can't talk to you about anything, blah, blah, blah. We're fucking done with this conversation. Don't pick me up. I'm like, I kept calm the whole time. He's like, in the past, I'd have blown the fuck up, but not after a red pill, thank God. I dropped her off. 10 minutes later, I get a deluge of long texts. My singular response was, I thought you said we were done. That's actually, I don't agree with it answering these texts, but that was pretty good. Thought you said this was it. Later on, I text her I'll be picking her up, same place, usual time. Now this is key. I didn't ask her, I told her. And in a reply a few hours later was, okay. The fact I made it a statement, not a question, was the key to holding frame. Absolutely key. I would say with the statement, she didn't have a whole lot of options. Asking a question would have let her decide, not me. It's like I started this back in January and it's been very helpful, so I wanted everybody to know it's helped me out. Old me would have just taken it and apologized, and for even speaking back, so thank you. So that's kind of a fun little field report. It's something fairly simple there. Girl has emotions, girl feels things, guy just does logistics. Texting's for logistics only. It was actually a pretty good example of that. Generally speaking, if your girl sends you a text that's more than like 3 sentences long, she's emoting. And just don't respond. Don't ever respond. Don't even read it. Because if you read it, your stupid man brain is going to be like, I'm going to say something. Don't say anything. If it's important, it's face-to-face important. And when you get face-to-face, like, should you read my text? It's like, no, what did you say? And then she'll just talk anyways. Like, there you go. That's how adults do things. We don't send Reddit messages back and forth at each other, So Jack's like, I've observed that women pounce on weakness when they fear the direction of the captain. Like, are you giving your wife reasons to respect your command? In my first marriage, my ex-wife did it constantly. And all I had to say was something like, fuck it. I'm dreading this meeting tomorrow with my boss. And then she was off. So he gives an example here. He's like, I don't know why you just don't tell him you want a raise. You do twice as much work as everybody else there anyway. If he starts to criticize you tomorrow, don't take that shit. Tell him what you're worth and what to look for another job and how does he expect it and blah, 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 blah. He's like, and I'd start by politely listening, and then I'd verbally acknowledge her advice and say thanks. And then I'd say, yeah, good points when I think about it. And then I'd just kind of stare at her and figured she'd wrap it up soon. And then I'd sigh and roll my eyes. Then I'd eventually snap and say, okay, woman, that's enough. I don't need this shit right now, which would naturally lead to a huge fight. And she'd say, I'm just trying to help. And every time I do, you act like a huge asshole. And then he'd say, not every comment I make is a request for your advice. Sometimes I just want you to listen and support me. And then I place my balls in a jar and handed them to her because after that gross display of unattractiveness, it was clear to my wife that I did not need them anymore. Keep that in mind, by the way, in your own relationships. So it's always good to maintain frame, but I suppose I'm just raising the point that her giving you advice is her signal saying that she wants you to alpha the fuck up, not by following her advice, which is probably worthless. But if you think you're on the right course and you've developed enough and you're achieving, girls like this play for blood. Even the smallest amount of validation your action plan, then she'll realize this soon enough and the shit tests like this will end. And I think that's generally how you get to a happily marriage. Not just endless, constant vigilance against moments of weakness. You don't need to worry about that when she trusts your leadership, feels good about her captain, so make it happen. Now, I say all this because eventually I did become vigilant against showing weakness to my ex-wife, but at that point it didn't matter. My career had stalled, very stressful dead-end job, I'd become physically and mentally flabby, I didn't want to show weakness, but I was so full of weakness, which meant I didn't show her anything, and we pretty much stopped talking. She'd still try to pounce on things I was fucking up, you know. I overheard Dean suggest you guys go for a hike this weekend. Are you going to go? And then I'd just stare at her and turn up the volume on the TV. So I did maintain frame, and the shit tests did end, but not in the way I wanted. But that's another story, though. And so he sums it up with, the easiest way to avoid your wife pouncing on your weakness is not to be vigilant against exposing weakness, but to not have any weaknesses to expose. I think I talked about this in an older video where it was like, the two sexiest words in the English language are, shut the fuck up, I got this. I think a big part of it, though, is understand deliberate action. A lot of guys, they just talk. They don't think. They just run their mouths. And in that way, they're kind of men being raised to act like defective women. Women obviously think things. Their emotions run wild. They run their mouth. And then as the conversation happens, they process their emotions from it. Guys don't do that. Guys sit here and we dwell on things. And then we kind of figure it out. And then we talk afterwards. So by the time we're talking to a girl, we assume she's already processed this and she wants to chime in. And you treat her like a man in that conversation. And then she's like, I don't get it. Everything I try to process here, he just agrees with it. Says, yeah, that's a good point. So clearly my rambling insanities are so perfectly on point. You ever want to notice why women talk about they have this great woman's intuition? It's like I'm psionic. I know. I'm an Aries. I know exactly. And this is how they get that dumb shit idea in their head. It's because they're rambling their nonsense to the guy they're dating, the man they're married to, their dad, and the dad's just like, yep, oh, yep, good point. All right, shut up, woman. And then she gets off of that. She talks to her friends. She's like, my husband did these things, and I guessed it all right. It's like giving her the lottery numbers to your heart, except for the prize is shit. If your girl's asking you what's going wrong and you start telling her what's wrong, what's the purpose? Like, what are you trying to do? Well, she asked. Yeah, well, I can ask for anything. I can ask you for $100 in the chat. Are you guys going to give me $100? So far, no. So far, no. So just because somebody asks does not mean you're obliged to. It's a great... I don't know if I have it up yet on the channel, but it's called Verbal Intercourse is Optional. It's probably one of the best married red-pilled mental models out there. And just realize, in the same way that your girl demands that you engage with a certain type of conversation that you don't want to, it's the equivalent of a guy running around with a giant erection saying, hey, come on, it's not gonna suck itself. That's how silly it sounds. That's how ridiculous it sounds. And you kind of have to equate those two to kind of understand this. But so why are you sharing this stuff? I'll give a great example. My girl's psionic, ESP. My resting face looks like I'm mulling something over and I'm pissed. So I'm just sitting here, minding my own business. She looks over. What's wrong? I'm like, nothing. What? What's wrong? Nothing. What are you doing? So after the 15th time of asking, I'm like, you keep asking me what's wrong. Now I'm pissed off. And now it's a fight because she knew it. She's like, I knew something was wrong. Why did I say that? Because I want her to shut up. Is that the best way to do it? No, it's not a good way to do it, because all I did was escalate the situation by constantly invalidating her emotions because, frankly, they're stupid. Better thing to do. What's wrong? My girl's on my ass right now. She just shuts up. Oh, agree and amplify means nothing. So when they're asking about these weakness questions here, hey, what's the matter? What's going on with your job? Are you okay with this? If something's really bothering you, a lot of the times they don't really care. Not really. They just, emotionally, they feel some discomfort and they talk. So let them talk. And then when you're done with them talking, I got this. What's bothering you? Some shit at work. It's not really important. It can be handled, but, And then you can go nuclear on the other end, where it's like, there's times where I'm pissed. I don't know what it is. I don't know, maybe somebody ran Rolo up the flagpole and I'm just fucking, ugh, or I lost a game of Tekken or something like that. My girl's like, what's the matter? And I'm like, look, it's got nothing to do with you. I'm pissed off at something right now. Let me be pissed off. I'm gonna get over it, and we can get back to normal. It's just 5 minutes. we'll be good. But that's the thing. And I've got like some more personal examples that I'm not going to go into in here. So I picked this nice goofy one. It's a way of like girls like, I just want you to express your feelings more. So you can actually do that. But it's always from your own frame. Yeah, shit's bothering me right now. It's supposed to bother me, and I will get over it. Give me a minute. And that's it. That's your boundary established. Like, yes, your intuition is right. It's like fogging. Something is bothering him. I can see why you'd think something's bothering me. It is bothering me. But that's it. You're not ceding any ground. You're not saying, now I want to hear your advice. I want you to tell me about it. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm insecure about it. Nobody wants to hear that shit. You shouldn't be saying that shit because, like I said, it's not about hiding your weaknesses. It's about not having any weaknesses to expose. Shit happens all the time. Canada just had a thing. We almost did emergency measures. I donated some money to a truck convoy and the girl's like, oh my God, are they going to take your banking? I'm like, no, they're not taking my banking. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Even if they do, I got this crypto here and I got this here and I could sell this and I got this here. And you're like, oh, okay. It's like, yeah, I'm a little pissed right now. Like Canada's trying to undermine our banking system. But you see what I mean? It's like a very reasonable example. It's like, yeah, I'm pissed. You caught up on that. Totally makes sense. But I'm going to get over it, and I planned around it. Shut the fuck up. I got this. So the way... And she doesn't pounce on these things as weaknesses. Anytime something goes wrong, I don't get pounced on anymore. I used to. But thank God for Red Pill. Now I don't, and you guys can be there too. So now you're at the point where when something happens, and it's a weakness, you don't have to pull... And you watch my Red Pill video on George Bruno where he's like, your girl's earning more money than you, so you got to start hiding money under the mattress or she's going to leave you. That's that hiding your weaknesses. It's hiding the badness, as Robert Clever calls it. You're not doing that anymore. Because then it just becomes a battle of attrition. And I'll tell you right now, the girl's limbic system and their larynx will always beat your stoic alpha male reservedness. Always in a battle of attrition. But it's that not having any weaknesses to expose. Bad shit happening to you is not a weakness. Reacting out to it like a bitch is a weakness. Letting your girl throw spaghetti at the wall and see what it sticks and using that to guide your actions? Yeah, that's being a bitch. Don't do that. Hey, you can keep talking as much if it makes you feel any better. I've already got a plan to get out of this. Don't worry about it. You just be honest about it. So, take that for what it's worth. And I will catch you guys on another episode. So, take care. Cheers.